Welcome to the London Outlook for Wednesday, 22 November 2023. Starting off with the calendar, as you can see, there's just USD red folder news coming up. That's at 3:30, which is 30 minutes after the start of the New York session, and then at 5 p.m. again, and then at 6:30 we've got some CAD news. That's essentially the news for today, so there's nothing for the London session, and we'll recap on this for the New York session. Moving on to the charts quite swiftly. In terms of GBPUSD, as I mentioned in yesterday's end of day review, today would be the fourth day of a bullish consecutive candle. This is highly unlikely, and thus, even though our technical analysis bias would be too long, we can't trade against the fourth daily consecutive bullish candle because it's more likely than not that the day will close bearish. For my technical analysis purposes, I see no reason to short. In terms of EURUSD, what you can see is we've recently had a change of character. Unfortunately, there was no flip reaction to validate the starting point for our pullback leg. What this essentially means is we can then look for our chain to create the starting point for our pullback phase. Until then, we're essentially waiting for price to return into this 4HOB, from which we can resume our pro trend move. The next pair I'm quite interested in trading is AUDUSD. This is specifically because if you look at it, it's quite similar to EURUSD. However, our change of character has got an initial reaction here, right here, and then since then that has potentially resulted in a break of this 4HOB and this substructure. Once that happens, this pullback phase point gets validated and we can consider shorts. However, for the mornings, particularly for London session, what we can't do is we can't ignore the fact that the pro trend ERL continuation move remains intact until this fails. However, because the 4HOB has been wicked, we have to identify our 4H buy to sell wick barrier, which would be right around here, because the high of this candle would have been created prior to the low of this candle being wicked, and this is something we need to be aware of. The other thing to note is that this 4H candle will only close in about 3.5 hours time, so unless there is the potential that this is just quite a significant wick. Either way, we can't ignore it. Maybe what I can do instead of that is just make this visible on the time frame below, which is that. But yeah, as you can see, price is pushing quite aggressively to the downside. When Frankfurt opens, we'll begin to monitor the low of the days. Obviously, we'll need well, not necessarily, but our options are either that we develop a chain from the Asia low of the day, or the next best thing would be to take out the Asia low of the day without compromising in breaking this level. And then also we've got to consider how we react to this 4H buy to sell wick. And then yeah, so I think for London session I'm probably just going to monitor AUDUSD. The other option is USDCAD, which has reacted to the secondary OB, but the secondary OB remains intact. To be honest, it hasn't quite tapped the range, so I'm not considering that we've reacted to this primary leg. However, we can't ignore what's been going on here, and if you look at this 4H candle, what you can quickly do is just investigate if this high was created before or after this wick. So this is a 4 p.m. candle which would end at 8 p.m. 4 p.m. is right around here. So this is the high of the candle, and 8 p.m. is right here. So okay, so we had these 4H buy to sell wicks right here, but these remain intact. And then we can consider playing longs in this being IRL, with that being the target, but that's something to consider as well. So my focus for the morning is between AUDUSD and USDCAD. This brings me to the end of the London session, and we'll chat again for the New York session.